Mesopotamians raised horse-like hybrids. There were 25 horse-like creatures' corpses uncovered by archaeologists excavating in modern-day Syria in the early 2000s in a stunning burial complex that also held human skeletons and gold, silver, and other valuable items. The graves were in El Marra, ancient Mesopotamia. Before burial, several of the equids seemed to have been slaughtered or sacrificed in some way. Horses, donkeys, asses, and other equids of the modern era had bones that differed greatly from those of the extinct species. Scientists have pondered for years whether these may be the bones of the strong horse-like hybrids known as kungas, highly treasured by the Mesopotamians and recorded in several writings. Analysis of the equid bones found at El Marra has indicated that they were hybrids, and very definitely the mythical kungas, making them the first known hybrids to have been created by humans. New research published today, January 14, in Science Advances discovered which species the Mesopotamians probably mixed together to create kungas thousands of years ago. They knew they were in for a task when paleogeneticist Eva Maria Geigel and her colleagues started working on the El Marra equid bones. It was obvious that we were going to have a difficult time, she says. Because the remains had been buried for so long in the hot, dry soil of Syria, very little of the original DNA remained. It was decided to use shotgun nuclear DNA sequencing, which analyzes fragments of DNA and stitched the DNA sequences together, and focused PCR analysis to focus on the mitochondrial and nuclear genomes. The mitochondrial and Y chromosome genes of 6 El Marra equids were studied in this manner, as were the X chromosome genes of the father. Using mitochondrial and Y chromosome DNA samples from 2 of 6 equids, the researchers found that 2 distinct equid species were represented in the samples. When it came to Y chromosomes, the hemiones, a category of equids that includes donkeys and wild asses, provided the mitochondrial DNA, while the hemipes, a kind of Syrian ass, provided the Y chromosomes. DNA analysis of equids found in the tomb was based on just a little quantity of DNA and did not confirm that the animals were first-generation hybrids, with genomes passed down from 2 different species. Since the last surviving Syrian wild assassin, which died in a Vienna zoo in 1927, the animals have been rather tiny, with a shoulder height of just approximately 1 meter, while the El Marra kungas stood at a shoulder height of 1.3 meters. Previous theories based on ancient artifacts suggested that contemporary animals were descended from the smaller hemipes. It took the scientists 10 years to make whole genome comparisons cost-effective enough for this kind of study, according to Geigel, to validate their first results. SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms, were still found in the DNA of the El Marra equids despite the fact that just a small portion of the animal's genome was present in the finest sample. DNA from some of the last remaining Syrian wild asses and an 11,000-year-old specimen unearthed at the Göbekli Tepe Neolithic site in modern-day Turkey were used in the study. Geigel adds that the Syrian wild ass was significantly bigger in prehistoric times. As the authors point out, this finding supports prior research that suggests diminutive versions of wild asses were the majority in ancient times, whereas taller individuals were more common among Syrian wild asses nowadays. Ancient breeders would have had a tough time capturing Syria's wild asses due to their speed and lack of domestication. This explains the high price and prestige of these kungas, Geigel adds. According to historical writings, the price of kungas might be as high as 6 times that of a donkey. They were also included in royal dowries and used to pull luxury carriages. It wasn't only that they were used in the military. An ancient wooden box discovered in modern-day Iraq, the standard of yore, has inlaid paintings of war and peace, including images of kungas driving combat chariots and crushing on their opponents. The standard of yore dates back to 4,600 years. Ancient manuscripts allude to kungas as Ain, bar xan written in cuneiform script. According to evolutionary geneticist Ludovic Orlando of the French National Center for Scientific Research, CNRS, who was not involved in the research but who helped create a technology employed in it, no one has known for thousands of years precisely what kind of animal this was. A portion of the financing for the Institut Jacques Monod comes from the CNRS. That perplexing word has now been explained by modern genomics. He says, "I believe this is quite a fascinating discovery for that reason. There was enough DNA from El Marra specimens for researchers to establish a strong result and indicate that donkeys and Syrian wild asses were the parents of these hybrids," he adds. Researchers at the CNRS, including Pauline Hanno, an archaeobiologist who wasn't involved in the latest study, have been studying subsequent horse burial cases, and she's keen to see what further may be learned from kungas bones.